go. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Today it's a pleasure to have a friend of mine, Anthony McDuffie Jr. here, a well-known artist, author, and motivational speaker. Welcome, Anthony.
Hey, thank you for having me on your show and your platform, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in. Do you have a background that can uplift us, let's say?
Yeah. So, to uplift, I think to put things in perspective, I like to uplift people by saying, take inventory of the things that's happening for you and what's happening in your day-to-day life. Take a personal inventory for a second, pause, and understand that you are blessed beyond measures. You are blessed beyond measures. And that should inspire anyone to realize no matter where they are in their state, whether high or low, you are still blessed with the opportunity to make a change and make a difference at every day. So I want to start with that. I think that's a good way to uplift anyone to know that they have the decision in any and every day to change their life.
Exactly. What about your profession, let's say?
Yeah, man, thank you for asking. So first of all, for the audience, once again, my name is Anthony McDuffie Jr. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an author, and also a motivational speaker. I have 2 books. This is my first book, the memoir, Grit, Grind, and Glory. It's a memoir of my whole life experience. In prison, going through trials and tribulations of the inner city of South Central Los Angeles, where I grew up at in the United States of America, where the environment was a very hostile environment, filled with a lot of crime, filled with a lot of disadvantages and adversities for young Black people growing up in the inner city. So I have that background, along with losing my father at a very young age. And didn't have no guidance or have anyone to look up to in terms of mentorship, in terms of education, and then also in terms of just some sort of guidance to kind of have me navigate life. So because I had the lack of guidance, I fell into crime and I started to do other things that got me caught up into the prison system at a very young age. I was sentenced 25 years in state prison at 17 years old. So I was a kid when they gave me some adult time. And through that process, I sort of refined myself, rehabilitated myself, transformed myself, and transitioned into the best version of myself that I possibly could. Of course, that came through trials and tribulations, but I learned many lessons through those trials and tribulations. I got out. I wrote the first book in which I showed you, and then after that, just recently, I released a poetry book, My Life in Poetry, which is a compilation of poems that I wrote while I was incarcerated. And I sort of did that by way of kind of healing myself from the trauma, the pain, the anger, the incarceration, and sort of finding a positive outlet to allow my emotions to be expressed in a positive way. And so that's when I created this book, My Life in Poetry. Once again, it's a compilation of poems that I've written. And since then, I became an entrepreneur. My brand and my company is Grit, Grind, and Glory. Grit, Grind, and Glory, as we know, is the title of my book, but it's also my brand, it's also my company, and it's also my mission, right? To be that, if you will, that motivating, inspirational figure for other people. So I like to consider myself a vessel of inspiration and motivation for people who may have came from similar backgrounds as myself, or other people who may not have, but just trying to search for and seek for inspiration and motivation in a life to get them on the up and up, given they may be, dealing with difficulties and hard things to bear with in life. So I like to consider myself that. I know I was probably long-winded, but in a nutshell, that's my background. That's who I am. All of the things that I mentioned before is what I went through to get to this point here.
Yeah, a phrase I like to use a lot, imperfectly perfect.
And perfectly perfect. I love
So,
that. I love that.
so yeah. Do you think that's a question towards your starting years? Do you think what happened to you was fair in a sense?
I wouldn't say it was fair, but what I would say is what's fair about it is how I overcame it, right? Because
Yeah.
I could have allowed the set of circumstances that surrounded not just myself, but everyone that is within my environment. I
Yeah.
could have allowed that to dictate the trajectory of my life, but I didn't. So
Yeah.
I say that was fair, that I didn't allow myself to create the reality sort of that was created for me. Instead,
Yeah.
created a different reality for myself. And so that's fair.
I see. Yeah, it makes sense. You know, in terms of your starting years, what do you think was the key for you to do the transition? Because obviously when somebody lives something like that, it's different than imagining something like that. So what can you say from experiences was the key to make such a big and powerful and inspiring transition?
Yeah. Man, couple things come to mind. So it's multifaceted, the answer. But what comes to mind is number one, God, the higher force, a higher power, a higher being, spirituality, to connect to a source that you know is outside of you, but also dictates and controls the world. And so when you tap into that source of spirituality, I think it increases your chances of success, because you don't have to have the weighing of the world to be on your back, on your shoulders, on your mind, inside of your body. You can allow it to be on someone else, and that someone else for me is a higher power. So I say, I give those pressures and that to you, and then I can deal with what I can handle and deal with on the day-to-day to become the best version of myself. So number one, God. Number two, I would accredit it, I would say mentors. Because you need mentors, you need people in life that
100%.
you want to emulate, or you want to look up to, or you want to get some sort of knowledge, some sort of guidance, some sort of help and support. So mentors is the second part of that transition for me. And lastly, I would say I just wanted to be the best version of myself. I didn't want to be an old person that was involving myself in crime, in gangs, and everything that was negative. I don't want that life for myself anymore. So I had to transition my thinking. And then when I transitioned my thinking, automatically my habits physically and everything physically came after. And so I would say those three, right? God, mentoring, and transitioning within your own mind to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, I see. You know, on that journey, we always have people trying to drag us down, right? So how did you manage that, let's say, opposite energy of the other people?
That's a good point right there, because it leads me to a segment in my book. So if I may, I want to, for your viewers and listeners, I want to just convey a segment, a little short segment of my book to explain and answer your question. So I was in state prison, and I had a cellmate who humiliated me because I didn't have enough money to buy food for myself. So he would eat food in front of me and didn't offer me no food, or didn't offer anything to me, which made me feel devalued and made me feel humiliated. It made me feel really low and ashamed. So instead of holding on to that shame, I will read to you and your viewers what I did instead of allowing the trauma and the shame and the embarrassment of another person to live within me. Okay, so I said, he made me feel embarrassed. I was feeling angry that my family, at the very least, didn't put money on my books to eat at the commissary store. I knew if I thought about buying junk food with the money that I was received, my money would be wasted. So my hustle mentality kicked in. and I searched up and down the store list looking for items to purchase that would make a flip and make a profit. Coffee popped in my brain. It made perfect sense, especially considering 85% of the prison population drinks some form of caffeine. So 85% of the people in prison are drinking caffeine. And here it is, I'm being humiliated by a person who's supposed to be supporting me, but he's not. He's actually embarrassing me. So instead of allowing the embarrassment to go to my heart and go to my spirit and go to my soul, I then transformed that embarrassment and turned it into a form of hustle. And I thought about coffee that I can sell to prisoners, because percentage wise, 85% of people in prison drinks caffeine. And to get this part, I know that caffeine is a very addictive drink. So even if you and I have the same access to coffee, my intelligence tells me before you run out of coffee, I have the ability to give you some of my coffee. In fact, I will sell you some of my coffee. This is because I know how addictive caffeine is. And so you would be willing to buy some of my coffee, even though we both have the same access to the same coffee. And that's what I did. I utilized my intelligence to allow me to become an entrepreneur. So instead of living in embarrassment and shame, I transitioned and transformed that embarrassment and shame into entrepreneurship. So I hope I answered your question.
Bro, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's so inspiring as well, you know. Not many people would allow that transition, because energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transferred. So if you have the power to transfer it to something positive, as you did then, it's powerful, really. So this is a good point to your entrepreneurial journey. So over the past year, something more recent, what has been the biggest game changer for your journey in entrepreneurship?
The jackets. This has been the biggest transition in terms of business. And now, given my business, Grit, Grind, and Glory is driven towards youth mentorship. So it's really predicated on inspiring youth to be the best versions of themselves, to be innovators and great people within their community. So that's the mission of the brand. But now, incorporating this sort of design and fashion into the brand has been the biggest game changer, if you will, in my life. And the reason for it is because the fashion speaks for itself, and the level of design. So for instance, right here, I have Grit, Grind, and Glory on the sleeve of the jacket, which brands it. What makes this jacket so unique is that it's a custom-made jacket that I partnered with a local fashion designer within the city, and talk about these beautiful, unique pieces on his jacket. And so now everywhere I go, not only am I marketing myself, and not only am I marketing my brand, but I'm also marketing other people who is attracted to the look. And now it makes them want a jacket. So now I've been incorporating, designing more of these jackets, collaborating with the local designer. And so it's going to be part of my brand. And I think it's going to be a big fashion statement as I move forward. So to answer your question, I think that has been the most powerful transition within my company.
I love that. You know, in terms of your company, what's the let's say trend question you get asked most often about your company and your brand?
Yeah, I think because I sell books and I'm an author, I think they try to most people try to figure out what it is at the core of it, and I explain it clearly to them. It's grit, grind, and glory. That's at the core of it. Meaning, I help people transition their grit and their grind into glory. Glory, based upon your measure of what success means for you. And so I help people reach that level by going within themselves to ask themselves, what is it that brings you glory, or what is glory to you in your company? And how do we
Yeah.
facilitate that? How do we facilitate that to the point where you receive your level of success based upon you? And so I think that's the biggest question I get asked from people, you know, in terms of my brand and in terms of where I go with it, in which direction. But hey, look, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, bro. So
Yeah.
when it comes to being an entrepreneur, as we know, there's many facets and there's many levels and there's many, you know,
True.
there's many things that comes with being an entrepreneur. And so I never try to limit myself to say, I'm just this or I'm just that. No, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm everything that I can imagine and an event. And I'm everything within my brand, but also I'm everything within the world that I can incorporate within my brand. So in other words, I'm saying I'm not limited to just a bookseller. I'm not limited to a graphic designer. I'm not limited to just a motivational speaker. No, my brand it's accompanying a whole lot of things.
Yeah. It's that's the priceless thing, you know, because if you're focused only on one or a couple, then I mean you're limited. You want to be limitless, right?
Right. Yeah. Now so let me give you some clarity. That's not to say that you take on so many tasks and so many things all at the same time. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is you don't want to just be so focused on just this one thing that you don't look at other things that could be entwined and incorporated with your brand to expand you, to expand your network, to expand your social connections, to expand your brand and your company as a whole. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, I see. It makes sense. So what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self starting out, early stages?
Oh man, believe in the process, believe in yourself, and never, ever quit. Just keep going. You may not get the desired success that you're looking for in the near future or in the here now. However, that success would come eventually over time, as long as you keep putting in the work. Just keep putting in the work. That's what I would tell my younger self. Keep putting in the work, never quit, never give up, and stay on the mission, stay focused, and you're gonna get everything that you manifest.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more with that, you know. So on to the bonus section. I'll say one word or a phrase, and you must reply with the first thought that comes to your mind. One word.
All right, let's do it.
Make sense? Good.
Yeah.
Right, the first one, simple. Books.
Grit, grind, and glory. Simple.
Love
you know
it.
what I'm saying? And that comes in mind because grit, grind, and glory, like I say, encompass everything. The grit, the grind someone goes through, and how they grind into glory.
I think I found the thumbnail title, you know. Grit, grind, glory. Love it. Next one, influencer marketing.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I would say what comes to mind to influence and marketing is branding, me.
Yeah.
Feel me? Like I say, anywhere I go, everyone, oh man, I like your jacket. Oh, cool, thank you. You know, it's part of my brand, Grit, Grind, and Glory. Check me out. I'm on Instagram. I'm on, you know, so marketing is me, and everywhere I go, I am marketing. I am influence.
Love it. What about visual arts?
Visual arts, first thing come to mind is visual techniques. I'm a visualizer. I envision things before they even happen, right? I envision myself get out of prison before I even got out of prison. I envision myself writing a book and having a book before these books was even made. So, first thing come to mind, visualization techniques.
Visualization, yeah. What about entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship, hustle.
100%. I love it.
Easy hustle. And not just hustle hard. You know what I'm saying? Always on this side. Hustle hard. You know what I'm saying? Hustle hard. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying, brother. Exactly. So what about motivation and discipline?
Motivation and discipline, foundational. That's what come to mind. It has to be foundational. If you don't have discipline, you're not gonna achieve much in life. because achieving much things in life requires commitment, and commitment requires discipline. If you don't have discipline, there's a lot of things that you're gonna hope and wish to have happen, and it's not gonna happen because you don't have the discipline.
100%. Any last words from Anthony before we close the call?
Oh man, my last words is, first of all, thank you for the interview, your beautiful time.
Pleasure.
Your smile, the conversation was uplifting. The time went by so quick. So I think my last thoughts is for the listeners and to the viewers, continue, if you are that entrepreneur, to hustle hard and motivate yourself and motivate others as you're doing. That's number one. Number two, my final thoughts is go get Grit, Grind, and Glory and read about my beautiful experience. You know what I'm saying?
100%, I agree.
You can get Grit, Grind, and Glory on my website, gritgrindandglory.com, or my Instagram, grit_grind_glory, my Facebook, Anthony Marshawn McDuffie Jr., my TikTok, Grit, Grind, and Glory. And, follow those pages and you will receive the inspiration you need.
100%. And there's going to be a link in the description of all those platforms as well, and the books and everything.
For sure, man. Thank you for that, brother. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. And that was Anthony McDuffie, ladies and gentlemen.